the Bronx Journey. I'm your guest host, Denise Then. The Lavelle School for the Blind advocates for quality education for all children who are visually impaired right here in the Bronx. Today on the show, we have Superintendent Frank Simpson here to tell us more on the school and its mission. Mr. Simpson, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you. So let's talk a little about what is the Lavelle School.
The Lavelle School, and we're located here in the Northeast Bronx, provides education to students ages 3 to 21. We have 172 students, and we're a day program, so the children come every day from throughout the city, primarily from the Bronx. And our students are very, very interesting. They all, out of 172, 107 are visually impaired, and they all have additional disabilities. So some of our students, 22, are in wheelchairs, several are hard of hearing, several children are on the autistic spectrum, and they're hardworking children. I mean, when you come and visit, and I hope you will, you'll see we have classrooms with about 6 children in a room, 1 teacher, sometimes 2 aides, one assistant. Very interesting about our school, and one thing that makes it different is we have more therapists than we have teachers, because we have a lot of physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, orientation and mobility, which is an instructor that teaches students how to use the cane. So we are very unique, and we're very proud to be in the Bronx.
Okay, so how and when did the program start?
It started a long time ago, in 1904. It's a very interesting story. There was a lady, an Irish lady named Margaret Coffey, and she was a maid, and she took 2 little girls from New Jersey who were visually impaired to teach them how to be maids. Then she had 4 because somebody brought her 2 more, and it got to be too much for her. So she went to the Catholic Church, to Monsignor Lavelle, and Monsignor Lavelle agreed that the church would take this on, and he in turn got the Dominican Sisters of Lavelle to take it on as part of their mission. So that's how it all got started. That's how it got involved with the Catholic Church. And the nuns moved. It used to be located in Manhattan, and then it moved to the Bronx. And they were there for years and years. I'm actually the first non-nun to run the place. So it's been a very rich history.
Can you please talk a bit about your role in this organization?
Well, I'm the superintendent, so I get to, basically work on program development, a lot of involvement with the 3 principals. And I also get to see the kids every day. It's a great joy. My room's right by the kids, so they run in and out of my room. And, we have various staffing things. I get involved in staff development, working with the board. These days, of course, a lot of my work is focused on funding, since things are pretty tight now in New York State in terms of the funding. So it's a very good job.
Okay, so is this a private school or public
Well,
school?
it's private. It's called private state supported, and it's unique in New York. There are 11 of these schools in New York. There are 8 schools for children who are deaf, 2 for children who are blind visually impaired, and 1 for children who are severely disabled. Out of all the 11 schools, the Bronx has 3. So the Bronx has more than any other county in the state. You have our school, Lavelle School for the blind. You have the New York Institute for Special Education on Pelham Parkway, and you have St. Joseph's School for the Deaf. That's as you go towards the Whitestone Bridge. You'll see it off to the left.
Are you only superintendent for this school or for other schools as well?
Just this school.
Just this school.
Yeah.
So how and when did the passion for helping disabled kids started?
For me?
Yes.
Well, it was kind of interesting. When I was young, like you, I needed a job. I was in North Carolina, so I went to the State Employment Service, and I looked on the bulletin board, and I thought, well, that looks interesting. People say to me, "Did you know someone who was blind?" Anybody? No, and it was just a great match. I've done it now for over 40 years, so I'm passionate about it. I mean, it's been an exciting career, and I think, as you get older and do things like this long, I've been fortunate to just collect a lot of stories from people and get to know a lot of people, who meet a lot of challenges every day. It's amazing. I mean, I've known many people. I don't particularly like to use the subways during rush hour, but many of my friends use canes or dogs and go right on the subways. So it's an amazing kind of job. It kind of feeds your soul,
Okay. So what would you consider your biggest satisfaction during these years?
Being able to associate with people who work hard to make the best of their lives. They don't look for pity or sympathy. They look for an equal opportunity. And people, rise to the top. And I'm not saying all people who are blind and visually impaired are heroes, but it's certainly, if you think about coping with the visual world with little or no vision, And especially a lot of the children, because I've been working in schools and adult services, it's tough, you know, when everybody else is getting a driver's license, or even as a teenager, when you think about it, if you couldn't, how would you flirt with somebody if you couldn't see them? How would you know if a boy was looking at you across the room? So it's amazing how creative people are to get this information and really have very fulfilling lives. I mean, you meet heroes every day where I work, you know, so that's actually true.
Okay, so how does the program works? Who
Well,
can join the program?
well, it's, you know, children come through their Committee on Special Education in their local school districts, and they can refer them to our school. It doesn't cost anything to the parents. It's 99% supported by the state of New York. You know, the process for admissions takes a few weeks sometimes. You have to have different evaluations, a psychological. And you have to be visually impaired to come to the School for the Blind program. To the preschool program, which is a separate program, we have 65 preschool children who have other disabilities, maybe autism, behavior issues, language issues. And very interesting, integrated with those preschoolers with disabilities, we have 15 children from the neighborhood without disabilities. So they're kind of integrated together. But it all comes through the local school district, the referrals. Parents can come and visit, bring their child, you know, and see what the school's like if they really like it. We have students coming, believe it or not, from Staten Island to the Bronx. We have students coming from Rockland County. So we reach out, you know, fairly far and wide.
Okay. How many children have you helped, or how many children do you help per program basis?
Well, we have 172 now. We have probably, of the preschool children, 50% of those leave every year and go back to the public schools. But of our students who are blind, visually impaired, probably 10 would graduate a year. So we have a turnover of about 10 students. It's been there a long time. I would guess thousands of children have gone through Lavelle School over time. These schools are old. There's 43 schools for the blind in the United States, and 2 of them happen to be in the Bronx. The one on Pelham Parkway is actually older than our school. Mm-hmm. It's 175 years old. So, you know, they're rich with history. They're involved with a lot of the changes in special education, you know, from the Braille writer to the computer to computers that have speech to all kinds of advances in terms of traveling. So these schools are just rich repositories of history.
Okay, so we have tools for education here on the table.
Oh, yeah.
Can you please explain to me or to us?
Well, we have about 25, 30 of our students are not only blind, visually impaired, but they don't have speech. Okay, so we have this set of universal tangible symbols. This was developed with a research project at Hunter College, and it's now going nationally through Hunter and the American Printing House for the Blind. But for example, for a little fella or a little girl who doesn't have speech and it's time to go home at the end of the day, and maybe they don't see, you'd give them this symbol, which means dismissal. So at the end of the day. And this, they would get the meaning from the symbol. You would also have the Braille and the print here, so hopefully they'd pick that up. And then you pair this together, and over time they acquire this. So when it's time to go home, they'll go, these are on a Velcro board. They'll go reach for it and take it. Same thing if they want to go outside. This is not as easy to see, but these are rocks, and you could feel it if you can't see it. And other things like, this is obvious, this is breakfast, you know, it's Cheerios. But this has been a very successful project, and you see some of our students who are so frustrated they couldn't talk, and they have causes behavior issues. Once a child gets a communication system, whether it's this type of a system or a Braille system or a computer system or just speech, then they can control more of their world by telling you what they want. Otherwise, the frustration level is very difficult.
Okay, so which, the other two?
Oh, this one means occupational therapy.
Okay.
And probably 90% of our students get occupational therapy, 90% speech, probably 50% physical therapy. But this is just a symbol that means occupational therapy. Last year, if you want to know about our therapies, we provided over 30,000 sessions of therapy, which is probably more than any school that I know of in New York State. And it's very wonderful because our therapists go into the classroom and work with the students in the classroom, so it's a team approach.
Okay, any successful story that you have from someone that...
Oh, I could tell you one every day. Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking earlier, you know, our kids are tough. They have survival skills because they've had tough issues. And one young lady, I saw her today, she was in the computer classroom, and she is moving along. She's about 20. She's had a lot of medical issues, you know, with dialysis and all these issues, and she is so positive. I mean, you think you've had a bad day, right? And you go in and she'll comfort you in spite of the fact that, you know, she may be waiting to go to dialysis. But she's just very positive, and she's a hero to me, or a heroine. She happens to be a young lady. I think a lot of our parents are heroes because they've come to adjust to a situation that could be seen as very difficult. They've maximized the positive with their students. They've given them a role in the family and in the community and taking them to church. And so we have a lot of parents, I think, of as heroes, and our staff. I mean, we have staff who've been there 39 years. This one fella who has taught children to travel in the Bronx using a cane, on and off subways, on and off buses. I mean, he has given freedom to kids to be independent on the using their canes. One thing I wanted to mention to you is, and I've been doing this so long, people who are blind used to have to depend on people who could see to read to them. So if you're going to get a job, you had to have a secretary that read to you, or you had to use a cassette tape recorder. That's all over now with technology. So technology has been the great equalizer for people who are blind, visually impaired. I mean, you have computers with speech, you have adaptive technology to, you know, with all the standard programs, you have braille displays that pop up in front of computers. So technology has been phenomenal. Email, I mean, you know, no more having to depend on your secretary or a friend to read you a letter. You know, you get it on the email and you just get the voice output. So.
What has been the hardest situation you have experienced in the past 4 decades?
Well, it's sad when anybody passes away or dies, and a few of our children, not many, have progressive diseases, and that's always very hard. So I would have to say when one of them passes away, that's the hardest thing for all of us. We rally around, you know, our social workers work with our students, and but that's hard. It's always hard for me.
Okay. It's been great to have you on the show, but can you please give us some contact information? Where can people get a hold of you? Oh,
sure. My email address is fsimpson, that's SIMPSON, at lavelleschool.org. And Lavelle is LAVELLE.org. Our phone number is 718-882-1212, and my extension is 216. And come for a visit. I mean, our students are our best advertisement. I could talk about this all day, but you need to meet the students and talk to the staff, and they'll sell you on the place. It's a good spot. It's a very good spot.